Okay. Hello.
Hello, can they hear us?
Well, I'd hope so. There is a microphone in front of us.
No,
And
but it's like when
I.
so this is where I wish I hadn't said that.
Yeah. But
push my
yes, welcome.
I'm so professional.
Professional streams.
Hello.
Welcome
Yes,
to the PQube stream. Oh, actually, we want to be on. In chat focus.
This one.
There we go.
Oh wow, I like it. You
Yeah.
got a whole
Good job,
new,
Caleb.
Thank
This
you.
is why he was hired.
Yeah, to make stream things like this. Hello, welcome back to the PQube stream once again. We might have a couple of new people in here today. I already recognise some new people because we've promoted this one a little bit more. We do this 3 times a week, these kinds of streams, but today is kind of a special one. We thought we'd do one a bit about the publishing process in general. And sort of what we do as a company, and we can answer some nice little insider things that you might not be able to ask some bigger publishers because they just won't be able to answer those kind of questions. So yeah,
and we'll try not to reveal too many trade secrets, otherwise we'll be fired.
yes, that
So
would be
it's
bad. Let me hear your battle cries.
Absolutely not.
That is a trade secret that we can't reveal.
Give you
Actually,
my
the battle
PayPal
cries.
account and you can pay me to do it.
So Dan is broke.
I'm broke.
Yes.
Cool.
So I've got a little list of things
Right. So I
that
believe
we were going to cover.
I guess I assume that most people who are watching this probably know who we are. I will just do a quick sum up. So we're publishers. We're based in the UK, but we have offices in LA. Now we have Tokyo, and we have Paris as well. So we're Europe focused, but we also do stuff in North America and in Asia. And depending on how can we apply? We need to have vacancies. There is one actually that's about to open if you do digital marketing.
Yes.
So we obviously publishing is a specific thing. We also do some distribution, which is generally just making physical products and putting them in the shops. So for instance, we've done that in the past for some of our racing games, and we've done that for Marvelous Europe, specifically for Europe. So we do a couple of things. We also did a slight dabble in mobile publishing. That was
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. That was in
I didn't even know
2016. We did a couple of games with a, I believe, Japanese developer for a small puzzle thing. It wasn't. We didn't do amazing. It's a very different process, so I don't think we want to do mobile again. Right. So that's for us.
So I mean that's PQube as a whole, I suppose. So. I guess no accounting jobs.
I mean, there is an accounting department. We try not to talk to them too much.
I have to talk to them a bit though.
Yeah, so do I.
They're
They're in a different office. So we're talking to you
Letchworth.
from the Bristol office, but we have an office near London, which is in Letchworth.
Near my hometown,
yes.
funnily enough. So yeah.
Sad times.
If you want to get into a job with us though, just go to our website and
There is a recruitment
there
page.
is a recruitment page.
Yeah.
Just keep F5 in that.
Just keep going day and night.
Something may pop up.
I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything opening right now in accounting because we do have a team of 4 people. But it's always worth asking us directly. So on Twitter or on Discord or whatever, we'll reply sometimes. And we also, when we have something new, we do advertise it. So
Yeah.
Or come join us on the streams and
Yeah.
we usually talk about that kind of
whatever.
stuff
I think
anyway.
we're
So
fairly approachable in terms of how we reply to people.
yeah. Wow, we've got a few people talking. Okay, hold on.
I'm pretty sure that thing looks dead. From what I understand, I have no information on it from Arc System. I'm just saying I think it looks dead.
The Blazeville alternative.
Yeah,
thing.
because I think it was.
Will there be a sort of question period at the end? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
of
guess we'll
course.
go through our main points. We might have some more people jumping in and out.
Yeah, we do have.
Yeah, we have
some
other people who want to get
jumping in
involved in
now.
the conversation, but are deep in meetings and other important things at the moment. So, but yeah, let's get stuck in, I suppose. So, I guess we should talk about what a games publisher on the whole does, and then sort of what we do. So, a games publisher is a company who publishes games.
Thank you, Caleb.
There we go.
There we go.
That
That's the end of
ends
the
my
stream,
thesis,
really.
yeah.
There we go. Next point,
We
everyone.
don't need to.
But yes, essentially we look for games that we're interested in, and then we, I guess, pay money to have them, and then we do marketing and distribution for them. We produce the boxes. and Production. That's down
actually
there.
a huge amount of work that happens before we start talking about the product.
Mhm.
I think the main thing that a lot of people seem to struggle on social media when they talk to us is that we are not a development team. We have no development studio that we own. We work with developers and we take their product and then we make it a game that you can buy. But some bigger players have their own development studios, like Square Enix. They have a ton of studios on top of the main Square Enix thing. We don't function like that. We just have the games that we sign with actual developers and then we bring them to you guys because that's what we do. So it's with the step between development and you having the product in your hand.
Basically,
Clip and pin on the PQube Twitter.
Yes.
I wish, but we have so many things to pin. So many. One of them is stop talking about Omega Labyrinth.
You just talked about it.
I know.
Yeah.
So it's just depending on the relationship, we will have more or less involvement with the development. But in most of the time, especially for Japanese products, the game is finished and then we take it from a Chinese or Japanese language, we localize it, and we bring it to you with all of the things that we'll discuss later. So his job and my job. But no development. If it's an indie, like for instance Cat Quest, we're alongside the development process and we can influence it a little bit. Like for Cat Quest 1, I was playing it pre-release and we saw some stuff was like, oh look, this is a bit overpowered, this is like maybe you should change this storyline. But it's small things, it's their product and we're here to help them make it a thing to sell rather than create a concept.
I guess as a smaller publisher, we're not like EA or Activision, who will dictate how a game should be and then make a studio do it.
But they then own the studio and the IP. We most of the time don't own any IPs. We just take the product to life, but we don't actually own it. It's not our baby.
Yes.
Let's put some loot boxes.
Let's get some loot boxes in those games.
That's too real.
God.
Well, not in Belgium, not anymore.
That's true.
Boxes.
But so I think that's a good overview of what publishers do in general, and I guess what kind of differentiates us from most publishers. So I guess we could talk a little bit about like which games specifically that we tend to focus on that maybe other publishers wouldn't. It's an important point though, because we work in a niche, I guess you could say, to a degree. Obviously, we do a lot of indie games. And we did used to do racing games, which we don't really do anymore.
That was a distribution deal, though.
But our main thing is Japanese titles, I guess I would say.
Well, I think a lot of people will know us from Japanese titles. PQube used to be a different company called Zen United, so at the time that was the relationship with Arc System, and from the relationship with Arc System, we developed into meeting other Japanese studios. Is a unique niche, yes. We are blessed with an overlord who enjoys Japanese TD games. So that
is the technical term as well, by the way.
It is a technical term in the office. So I guess we also go for what's really important in our office. We're not a very big team, so we try to go for things that we like, and that applies to Japanese products as well as indie products. Regarding the question that's just been asked about how do we find games that we decide to publish. So the team has to be kind of passionate about it. So we have a nice collection of massive weebs, and more mainstream games, Dan, that we can.
We won't go too much into mine.
Let's just not. So we that's how we go for that. We started with obviously Japanese stuff. So Galgun, I think, was something that made us more visible with the underwears, the screen cleaner collector's edition 3 years ago.
Yes,
and then obviously there's only like a finite amount of products of that style that you can find in Japan, and you gotta find new things to publish. So we started looking into indie things. We've done some very varied things actually with indie. We went from Fight of Gods to Cat Quest, so that's a big stretch. So we go to events all over the world. Sometimes it's events where we are exhibitors, so like PAX East, PAX West, PAX South. Sometimes we just go and just meet people, right? GDC, for instance, is the prime example of going to meet developers and finding new things. And then, we just talk to them. They have to agree to our terms. We have to collectively, the whole team, like the game. And then we see what we can do with it, really. I would say Gargan Dabble Peace was definitely something that did really well for us and kind of put us on the map, as we're a bit left field in the sort of things that we do, but we're crazy in a good way, because at least we have fun with the products that we do, which is nice.
I think we take a lot of chances on games that a lot of other publishers just wouldn't, which is cool.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. And we do understand the whole censorship thing is quite important. But that also means that's for Japanese products, obviously, because of the more risque style of stuff that we do. But for indies, we also try to go for things that are unique, that are interesting, that are a bit quirky, that will work with our identity, which is why we have such a wide array of things, basically.
We've got the question.
Of course.
I think maybe I've got a little section on my itinerary at the end where we'll talk about specific challenges of our field of work, and we might maybe touch on that.
Maybe
we'll
if we're allowed to. I mean, it seems to be a very popular topic. Maybe we can just clarify, maybe at the end, like what happened and how we feel about it. Are we allowed to do that?
There's a way to phrase it that we can talk about.
Yeah.
I was the only one. You guys weren't in the office.
So no, I was working with the company.
Yes, you were. You just started when
I
that
just
happened.
started, and
I was.
I'll be honest. When I started, and then I heard that, I was like, "Wait, what's just happened?" Like, you know, I was kind of
that was my product, so that was really close to my heart. Let's do that at the end. I would rather start from the main question was, or the main topic was about the publishing process, and then if you guys want to talk about it, well, we'll say what we can about it, because there is like red tape around that specific subject. But you guys should probably know enough to understand what we're saying.
You could probably Google it, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, yeah. So as your chat is lagging, but we can see it here.
Yeah.
It's obvious what happened. Yeah, but I guess if you want to know how we felt, we can talk about it afterwards.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, but I guess the main thing, another thing we could touch upon, and a question I received in advance as well, which is about just finding the games in general in terms of what we publish. Somebody asked, do we actively go out and find games and have to convince them, or do developers come to us? And a lot of the time developers do come to us.
Oh yeah.
Dom, who is our PR guy, manages the PR inbox. That's sort of first point of call for a lot of developers when they come to talk to us. So pretty much every day we'll have like something new that an indie developer has sent into us to look at, and sometimes it's like really, really cool and we want to chase it down, and sometimes it's not. But yeah. We have a lot of developers who will come to us, but of course we also do, as we said, scout out games ourselves as well. Yeah,
so we go to specific events just to meet them. We go to events where we're exhibiting, and perchance we might find something that's really interesting. There's a lot of word of mouth, to be honest, in the industry. For instance, in Bristol, we're in a place where there's a games hub above us that has a lot of individual developers, and one of them was like, "Hey, you guys are a publisher and we're in the same building, can we talk?" So it's
happened today, actually.
Exactly, so it happened today. It's not the first time either.
No, it's quite a we get on a daily basis. I would say we always get developers approaching us. At least I get to play maybe 2 or 3 games a week that we're maybe looking at getting it. And then if we really kind of like it, we'll play it a lot more. I think like a good example was Hell Warders.
Yeah.
Like I played that game for hours before we signed it, I think it was, and then I think we went ahead with it. So.
And then we might be recommended by someone. Indie devs are quite tight-knit, depending on the region as well. So like, hey, we're working with this publisher, who are you working with? So it can be really anything, completely per chance meeting, or very formal. They do like speed dating, but for developers and publishers at GDC. So Dan's boss Harrison has done that in the past, and just like gone and sat down and like speed dated other developers to see what was available. For the South African question,
it's probably a distribution thing.
That's a distribution thing. So basically, we have to go to each country with our sales team and present the products and find people who are interested in selling it. I believe at some point we had a thing with South Africa, and then it disappeared. I don't have any more information. if the people in South Africa, as in the trade guys, aren't interested in what we do, it's kind of really hard to convince them, right? So it doesn't matter if there's a lot of customers interested. If the the shops don't feel like they want to take that product for any reason, then there's nothing we can do. Like, we had that problem with Australia with Gargan Double Peace, and they after that were really touchy with anything Japanese because they thought it would be sexy. So it's just a matter of convincing there's like a very finite amount of people, like it's 2 or 3 dudes in a room that have to be convinced that what we sell is interesting. And because what we do is a bit niche, they might not just want to take a risk at all, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess that's a question for Geraint, really.
Yeah, that's one we can come on to at the end, I think, because I'd like to hear
the
that story too.
Yeah, because Geraint will know.
I guess the next thing then. So after we sign a game, I guess it'd be nice to talk a bit about the process of what happens after that.
So when we sign a game, that kind of starts with your team.
Yeah.
Because you do the work before I do the work, really.
Yeah, we will do. Well, I guess the whole contract thing first. So that's the signing part, right? And
wonderful.
Then, I don't
Fun times.
dabble with that. I guess we would see where the development team is to begin with in terms of where they're at with their timelines, and I'll ask them kind of like, when are you expecting to get content complete, like in the game? So
a build with everything.
A build with everything, basically, but it doesn't have to be like fully polished, if that makes sense. I'm trying to not use terms now here.
Basically, from there we let the developer kind of work on the game. I will start getting stuff ready for like I don't know how to say it without being all too like metadata stuff. So like store assets and things like I'll start really early with that. I usually do. But I would usually end up just playing the game, giving them my own feedback, and then I'll start doing like age rating stuff for the game. So it's one of the most important parts of the job that I do is finding all the bad stuff. Is how
Dan has to look for a lot of swears.
So it's not just so if we take, for example, this is I don't know how much I'm going to talk about this one, but I'll do it anyway. If we take Punchline, for example.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay, so are we allowed to talk about the USK incident?
Yeah, it's just we finally got it rated.
Yeah, so
another challenge
like USK, which is the German rating board, basically weren't too happy with the content that was in Punchline, and we kind of like
the Overlord is staring at us like
Overlord was staring at us from
basically
camera.
They weren't too happy with the content, but we got it overruled kind of thing, and that was kind of one of the PMs that was working on it, who unfortunately is
product manager that was working on
it, who isn't working with the company anymore. We sat down together and we were talking about like, why, what, though you see like underwear in the game, you're more instructed to not see it, right? So it's not part of like you're not rewarded for it, right? You're punished for it. So we took that to court basically. So I didn't know how much I was allowed to talk about this.
No, that's okay.
But we got it overruled and we got a rating for it, which is great. So like other things that I do when it comes to ratings, it's not just the visual aspect of it, but also the localization, so the text, right? So I have to go through loads of documents, like all in-game text. So we do a lot of visual novels, so it's very time consuming. And I have to find every bad word you can think of.
In any spelling.
Yeah. That's in the game, and like some of the stuff that I have, basically all our, for the last year and a half, all our visual novels, I've basically completed it by Excel. Like, I played the game, but I read the whole story, right? Yeah. So from there, we'll get the game rated. That way, then the developers can put the ratings in the game and put on like parental control levels and things like that. And then from there, we take the final build, the final game, and we submit it to Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, depending on the platforms it goes on.
And Valve.
Valve, and they will test the game to make sure it's to their standards, and
they will then come back to me and say, hey, this is what we found, we're not quite happy with it, can you please fix this? And that process can be quite long, and it can push like street dates back. So a lot of the time, if we're delayed on a project,
it's Dan's
usually
fault.
my fault. So don't hate.
But
Hang on,
yeah.
he said, somebody's asked,
Sorry.
do you have a word filter for auto search?
Do I have a what? Sorry.
A word filter.
for auto search.
Just gonna turn the
No,
mic
so
down.
what I do is we'll get like given Excel documents. Majority of the time, the developers will use that for their in-game text, and I use Control F, and I will just search like the stuff I've typed on my computer is quite scary.
Get you put on a
actually.
list.
But yeah, I got like this book that has a list of really bad words that are commonly used, especially like in visual novels. Like we'll take example. It's not really, in my opinion, it's not really a swear word, but people find offensive, which is the word "damn." Like, oh, damn it.
Well, for Americans, that's a problem.
Yeah, so that would be a problem. The other things I got to look for are the visual aspects of it. So, for example, we actually did a little test actually for when we were recruiting, where I actually put together like this small video clip that that was from Punchline actually, and gave it to the person that we were interviewing, and they had to spot all the bad stuff that was in it, right? And it's quite
like a driving test.
yeah, it's like a driving test, but it's amazing how many people didn't pick up on some of the stuff that
Is actually relevant,
offensive,
yeah.
right? But they don't see it as offensive. So, for example, there was a plastic toy gun that was like lying on the floor in this video, and it's quite in the background. It's still visible, it's still there, and it's representing a weapon. Therefore, I would have to
log that
to the age rating guys, and there's quite a few of them. So we got Peggy, USK, ESRB, DJCTQ.
For Brazil, ACB for Australia.
ACB.
Oh, I haven't even
Australia.
heard the last couple of those. I
Yeah,
know.
so
I only know
USK.
because I've been here longer.
Yeah.
it's quite a long process. So that's what we do for like the physical and digital side of it
Yeah.
to get them rated. Where
Is
did it get?
most of our localization in-house? No, not really that.
No, so we.
That's a huge.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work basically. And if you're looking at a visual novel for Chaos Child, if you guys follow people like Distant Valhalla, which is Reading Steiner on Discord, on Twitter, and his team, we've been working with them for quite a while for Japanese visual novels. He started working on Chaos Child like a year before we announced anything.
Wow.
More than that, it took like he spent almost a year just localizing that by himself, so that all of the terms that are specific to the game would be the same, because he was the only person working on it. We use different localization teams. A lot of it is Japanese to English, right? So it's the same people. For indies where we have less text and we can do more languages, it depends. We've worked with anything from freelancer to a full team. Yeah.
Like big companies that we use. They also do the localization for our box as well. So obviously outside game as well. They do some stuff and things you see on eShop as well. On Steam,
on trailers.
There's quite a lot that goes into localization.
I think the question is that about the Chaos Child translation. How long? Yeah, and so for USK, I saw there was something about it earlier. So basically, for USK, we had a chat with them last year at Gamescom, and the dude that we met was super nice. USK is several groups of several people put together, and your rating kind of depends on who you get at USK. So if you appeal a rating,
about the ratings boards.
How long? What exactly? How long does it take to get something rated?
Between 3 and 5 weeks, right? Depending on the rating board.
Yeah, it also depends on the game as well. Like, it's like asking how long a bit of string is sometimes. Like, so
depends on the amount of content you have to submit.
If we take, again, I'm going to be referring to Punchline quite a lot because this one was
very specific. Yeah.
Yeah, this one took me to get everything done. I'll talk from like beginning to like when we got the rating, right? So I got the build. I played through the whole game while recording it, like
from beginning to end. So I got all the cutscenes in that, and then I sat down with this video of completing the game, and I cut out the parts that I wanted. I then time-stamped it to say what was going on. The video at the end was around about an hour and a half long, and then I went through all the localization on the in-game, and I had to document that. Then I had to fill out all the forms, right? So that process probably took me about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was sent to the age rating bodies, and I think like Punchline took like about a month for them.
Yeah.
We were I was back and forth with them quite a bit. They wanted some clarification of like, you know, can you tell them what's going on in this section? Because I only send them a small snippet, right?
I can't even imagine what they must have to do actually at the ratings boards as well.
Yeah. So if you you can send them like, I think it's like a 25-minute video of like gameplay and some like the bad stuff, and they'll get the idea of it. But how I like to do is like say, look, this is everything that's bad in our game, and that way it's just usually quite
out the way.
easy. Because if so again, I don't know how much I'm allowed to go into this, but I'll again say it, and I'll get a slap on the wrist later maybe. When it comes to like ESRB, we can be fined for not giving the correct information. So like for myself, Bryce and Mario and Harrison, we have to be very thorough.
Team. Yeah.
So the production team, we have to be very thorough when it comes to rating a game. It has happened to us in the past where we have slipped up and been fined, so we are very cautious when it comes to that. Like I try to like go through it with a comb, like, and I look at everything. So I'll play the whole game. I will then look at all the video content, and this is quite time consuming, so, and I'm not exactly the best gamer ever, I'm not fast, so something I'm working on. I'm a speedrunner. So
well, Galgan 2 and USK is, so as I was saying, USK is comprised of several groups of people who rate whatever's presented to them. So if you're not lucky, you might get someone who's deeply against what we've showed, and then if you resubmit or submit to a different group gets it, then
sometimes they're fine,
yeah, sometimes they're fine. So which is why USK has changed a little bit. They don't want to be the guys who say no to all the sexy stuff, or at least that's what they said to us. And they've been quite open about it, and I think things are improving for us since we got Gargan 2 rated and Punchline overturned.
Yeah,
So.
I feel like with some of the stuff that we've submitted to some age rainbow, I won't mention which ones, but it feels like we're a bit in the spotlight with them because of some of our content.
Yeah, we're quite
maybe.
known for what we do, I suppose,
Yeah.
with all of the guys, not just USK.
Yeah, not just USK. So yeah, so again, it makes my job a little bit more. I have to be more thorough and explain like why is this happening here, kind of thing. You know, when it comes to things like All-Star Fruit Racing, right? With like things like that, yeah, I will play the game, but I might not spend as much time on it, knowing kind of like
That there's
like,
less likely to be
like
some
I'm not
objectionable content in
expecting
that.
it to be.
But then something that really
graphic, should we
surprised me, so when we did the original Cat Quest, we had worldwide rights, so we did pretty much, except Asia, so we did Brazil and stuff digitally. And for me, Cat Quest is a very child-friendly game, and actually it got E+ in the US and a 10 in Brazil.
Wow.
So because of the fantasy violence in it, there's no blood, there's no swearing, it's super friendly looking, but because you essentially have to hit enemies and kill them, that suddenly got into a 10+.
Did
I
you
was
say
like,
it got? Oh, E10 plus it got. Yeah, that's pretty surprising for Cat
I
Quest.
was
Yeah.
really surprised. Fantasy violence and Cat Quest 2 is the same. So it's sometimes stuff that you would never think about. Wasn't it in All-Star Fruit Racing? There was an image of a
Yes.
skull.
Okay. Yeah. So this is where so ESRB picked up on this one, and sneaky there. So I was driving around this track, and I showed them like this is the game kind of thing. So I showed them the video, and I said like all the bad content that was in it, right? And on this one track, it had a cartoon skull, like in the background. Okay, like it wasn't like main part of the track. It was like background environment, and I didn't notice it, right? And they came back and said, yeah, we're not going to give you a rating because we've seen a skull, and we want to see. They wanted it from there. They wanted to see like every track. So that I had to go back and race through every track really slowly. I say race.
You did
Right,
drive
it's like
slightly around each
the
track.
tortoise and the
Tortoise and
hare,
the hare,
right?
yeah.
And I was the tortoise, and I had to just slowly creep through and record myself doing all this. and literally scan each track for anything that was bad.
So
Sometimes we can be quite lucky when it comes to age rating stuff, as in like, say if we've signed a game from like Japan, right? They would have done like a Sero rating, which is the Japanese rating, and they will send us their content and like, this is what we submitted.
And you can sort of
And then we can
recycle
kind
some
of
it, yeah.
work from that. We can't send the same information because it's in a different language. It has to be
In English.
In English, right? So, but it gives me an idea, and I know what I'm looking for, and I understand
that
it
does.
myself, right? So that helps me a lot.
The question about Germany, so this is the problem is basically we had a distributor that kind of went under administration last year, and then we found someone else on short notice, but it didn't work out. And so since then, basically, we haven't been able to put the games in the shops. We do plan for them. We set aside some stock. We design the game design for the box, but we don't have anybody who's willing to take them. It's on ongoing conversation, and I know it's part of our priorities. It's just been mega complicated. Also because of the USK rating thing, which meant some of our best-selling products in other territories we couldn't sell in Germany for a while. But yeah, so you can buy them digitally, or you could import a PEGI version from Switzerland, Australia, Belgium, France, but you wouldn't be able to find a USK version physically because we haven't manufactured them in a while.
But we hear you, German fans. We're doing what we can.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
Obviously, our office is straight up publishing, so we don't have the power. Like, we help the sales team because marketing and sales work together, but we're not the ones making those deals or signing those contracts. All we can do is tell them, hey guys, we have requests for Germany, please do something. But
Yeah, pretty much.
I can't read any of the stuff.
What
that's
if I want a USK version for the beauty of the...
The beauty
Nobody
of that
wants
lovely
the
USK logo.
No, that is
Yeah.
a pain for everybody involved in the design of
We
that
have to
box.
shift around the box art and stuff for USK logos.
Yeah,
don't
we have special guidelines for USK because the logo is so big, and we don't really want to do USK plus PEGI because then you might as well just stop designing and just
just,
logos on.
just
Yeah.
like Times New Roman, the title of the game, on like a white background, and then just surrounded by age ratings. No design. But yeah. Shall we move on, I suppose, to
Yes.
marketing and such?
So basically, once I think the process for us is obviously we might say that hey, we have this new game coming out, which is a PR thing where we just say what's happening. But the real work kind of starts once we know that the game has passed certification. So once Dan tells me the game is actually working, you can do something with it. So then we start doing. So his team makes sure that stuff is in the store. So if you see a pricing problem, you can talk to him about it.
Directly to Dan.
Yes,
Nobody
directly
else.
to Dan or his team really. So
Yes.
and the setup on the Steam page, the PlayStation, all of the things. So that's a process that they manage, and then we use it to market to you. So I guess I work with Caleb and Dominic a lot, and we do a standard thing would be we announce the game, which is like, ta-da, surprise, this thing is happening with a trailer, and then we start doing some advertising, so that's up to my team per product to decide how we market it. And so we do marketing plan, that's my favorite thing, I love PowerPoint presentations. This is also where we decide what we're going to do with the game physically, so if you see a special edition, usually that's one of the people from my team, the product managers, who conceptualize what we want to do with it. So day one editions, collector's editions, usually that's the product manager who decides what they want to do and then make it happen with we have operations who make sure we get the right price for the products, etc. And then also we make it on time. We decide what goes on the box, what the text is on the box, the text that goes on Amazon, for instance, and our job is really, we are called product managers, but it's also kind of brand manager, where we're the champions of the brand individually for each of our games, and we try to make sure that they're well represented, obviously within the limits of our budget.
And while you do that, I make memes.
Yes, exactly. Caleb has a hard job.
I do, yes.
So on top of product managers, we have, so I'm in charge of all events. The other people in the team are in charge of stuff like trade marketing, so trying to make sure that the trade supports us. That's Johnny. Gareth talks to first party stuff, so
He talks to Nintendo.
Yeah,
and
so
things
we
like
try.
that.
If you see our trailer on the Nintendo channel or the PlayStation channel, we usually have gotten in touch and asked if they could help us out. They say yes or they say no. It depends how busy they are. So that's kind of the life of the game. Really, you can't pay for that and you can't force that. So it's just we try to do what we can with it.
That's how we got Cat Quest 2
In
the
the
Nintendo
Indie World,
thing, which
at
was
Gamescom.
really cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was thank you, Gareth.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the line is poor Dominic, who's by himself doing all of the review requests and influencers and curators on Steam and trying to make sure that we have reviews once the game comes out. And then if production hasn't done their job on time, sometimes we don't have codes until after the game is out.
That's not just our fault, though. That's sometimes waiting for Nintendo.
The blame shifting
so-
stream.
Basically, as well, so you'll see like a coming. We'll give like with the trailer, we'll usually do a announcement trailer. By the time it's then past certification, so certification is the platform holders that will say, yes, your game is now approved to go on our platform. That's when we get a release date theoretically.
Yeah.
This is when the game is coming kind of thing. So that's when you come in, is it? I guess that's the public that gets announced as soon as possible, really.
Right, we got a couple of questions. So who was responsible for the Great Fight of Gods trailer? That's Natalie, actually.
Yes.
She
You're looking
we're
over.
saying good things about you, Natalie. About Fight of Gods.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a team effort, to be honest. We were a slightly smaller team at the time, and we made something, and the product manager and Garrett and myself and Natalie were just like, what can we do that makes this stand out? And then we made the thing. Yeah,
This is
that
before
was
my time.
Hey,
yeah.
copy of Gun
It was our
Pixies
most viewed
arrived.
trailer of all
Nice.
time. 1.2 million views to this day. Organically, we didn't put a single cent in that trailer.
So we just have to do more stuff like fighting gods, apparently.
So what is it? Like? I'll check the trailer. I don't think I've actually seen it.
It's something. How long is the production process at Sony and Nintendo? So you gotta be more specific about what you mean for the production process, because that could mean manufacturing the games, which is also called production but comes at a later time. So what do you mean by production? So we can give you the answer. Yeah.
Like the code passing, or do you mean the game passing, or do you mean kind of like the store setup? That's another part of it.
Yeah.
There's
Have fun with Gun Pixies.
Yeah.
Embrace the kusoge. A round of Dorian for the Great Fight of Gods.
No.
Right? No.
We need to. I don't know why I just haven't set fire to the rest of the ones we have yet. I never want to see them again. Never. But maybe I'll bring one or two to MCM, and then maybe some of you lucky folks can have them. Instead of some cool merch, you get a disgusting durian sweet instead.
Yeah, if you come see us at MCM or EGX, we'll have some treats for you.
I'll be at both of them, so you can, if you want to ask me more production stuff.
Manufacturing.
Okay, so manufacturing can take up to 10 weeks, I think it is,
Right.
in the US.
Yeah, so
So
you have to cut it up between platforms and between regions.
Yeah.
So I would say Europe PS4 is the quickest.
Yeah, I think that's about 8. No, could be
Six?
like
I think it's 6
maybe,
weeks.
Yeah, it could be
6 weeks for Europe PS4. The Nintendo, the cartridges have to come from Japan. So that's where the kicker is. So Nintendo is always longer than Sony. That's just because of the carts.
It's more difficult to make than Blu-ray.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So,
It's just a purely standard thing. And then in the US they just have a longer process because they use different partners to publish, to print and to manufacture.
Yeah.
The partnership with Arc System Works. Did we say we do that at the end?
If we can
We're going to try and get
Garrett
Garant in and give us a little chat about.
I'll be quite about that.
I roughly know what happens.
I think it goes back to even
It's
before
before.
PQube, right? Like before it became PQube. Is it?
Yeah.
Yes,
much-
it
much
would go.
before
It
that,
would
right?
go that
So-
far back. I'm pretty sure.
So what's next?
So I guess we do the marketing stuff and then the game comes out. But if that's, I mean, do we want to go into more depth about that? No,
Well,
we
I
were
don't
pretty
know.
much at the end.
That's
didn't we?
kind of You know, we do the box, we do the concepts, we do the marketing, the advertising. whoever wants to go to an event, I will help. The product manager also kind of shapes what they want for the trailers, for the design of anything and everything. We also have to get that approved by the developers, of course, so depending on who that is, it might be 2 minutes or 12 working days. I'm not going to say who that is, but yes, so sometimes you make something and we can't announce anything because it's not been approved, and we know that we have X amount of days before that gets approved, so there's a lot of little pieces like that that can be really, really close. Sometimes we get approved on our press release half an hour before we post it, so can be exciting.
I guess the next thing I have down, which we may have to talk about somewhat diplomatically, is what are some of the challenges that we face mostly? And I guess we can take this question in any way we want.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have had the same sort of question. It's quite broad.
It's very broad.
Yes.
Hang on, how do you decide on the extra goodies that you put into the box for day one editions? So there's one specific thing. So for instance, for visual novels, before any of us joined, Garant was already working on Steins Gate and stuff, and he made the day one with the art book. And since then, he's wanted to continue this really like tidy PQube collection of visual novels. So for instance, if we have that, we'll always aim to do that, whatever happens, for a physical copy.
With visual novels, we're pretty consistent about that.
Yeah. We do widgets or pre-order bonuses, however you want to call them, for retailers, because it's important for us to support trade and physical products. Obviously, digital is winning realistically in the war of of how you buy your games. So if we do interesting physical goodies, we try to encourage people from buying.
I think our fans tend to be the kind of people who like to collect as well.
Yeah.
So, and we know that, so that's why we try to do really cool physical editions. So.
And then the rest of the time, the product manager kind of goes, what can I make that's cool in this game? Like, what can I take from it that makes it look good? Sometimes we brainstorm about it if it's a big collector's edition. The screen cleaner was Garen's idea in conjunction with Inti Creates, because obviously the developers have to approve whatever you're creating for their game. Sometimes we don't have a choice. So for Kill la Kill, the collector's edition was the same for everyone because they wanted to make sure everybody in the world could get the same thing.
It was pretty cool, that one.
Oh yeah, no, it was, but it's just we couldn't do anything else because this was the guideline. And then we genuinely, everybody who's in the office is to some extent a gamer, and so we try to make stuff that is actually interesting. And to be honest, we get the goodies, and then I have like 3 work keyrings on my set of keys because I actually like them.
You got a sticker on your phone as well, I saw.
Yeah, that's a Cat Quest sticker from 2 years ago.
So this one, how are you working with the discoverability problems that are rampant on places like Steam and also increasingly so on the PlayStation Store and eShop?
That's kind of a marketing challenge, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I guess the workaround is to just tell people about the games the other way. I guess the organic finding of new games through the stores themselves, that is a lot more difficult now.
That's true.
I guess the best thing we can do is when we go into sales, really, because then there's usually a page for the sale, at least on PSN. Like we're in right now, we've got the Big in Japan sale, so you can go on there, look at every game in the Big in Japan sale, and you can usually fairly early on find quite a few of our games. So that's a good way for people to find our stuff. But aside from that,
it's a lot of PR work. So for Steam is saturated to death, as you must all know. The trick is reviews, curator reviews, influencer reviews. Word of mouth is indeed still the strongest thing, right? If you see if you have someone recommend you a game, you're more likely to buy it than if it just pops up as an ad. We try different types of advertising. We also have to keep on top of how we diversify, because we're having a bit of a rethink at the moment on how we advertise. Influencers, free and not free, are kind of the way to go at the moment. I will say stuff, for instance, depending on what the game is, Valve or PlayStation or Nintendo might feature it, sometimes just because they're interested in the game, sometimes because you ask them, sometimes because it's the right time. It's a question of luck, it's a question of product. There's stuff that we're never going to get featured for, so Gun Pixies.
Gun Pixies won't show up in a Nintendo Direct.
Yes,
I would doubt.
it's not, and it's not like Valve isn't going to support it because it's an adult-only game, and obviously most people would not be able to see that without being logged in with the right filter anyway. So I think we have to pick and choose our battles. It's not that we don't believe in the products, it's just that there are things that we understand are niche, and so we'll try to, instead of being visible on Steam or PlayStation, we'll try to talk to the niche directly and hope that the word spreads that way. So for visual novels, there's a finite amount of people who are ever gonna like visual novels. Same for sexy games. Some people will never be able to stand it, so we just try to talk to the ones who do and let the word spread that way.
Yeah, I guess that's quite a specific problem for us as a company, but yeah, hopefully that's an interesting insight into that part, because the niches we work in.
So we have kind of a very like somebody like Bandai Namco, who has a huge franchise like Dragon Ball Fighters. They don't struggle as much because of the way it's visible. So it's for the smaller titles really that it's very saturated. So we have to pick and choose the games that we decide to bring forward because of that.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about challenges specifically? Should we move on to just sort of a general Q&A? Maybe?
Yeah.
Sure, if anybody wants to ask.
I think that whatever questions are asked will probably be relevant to the challenges that we face, because they will probably be quite linked. So if you guys have questions, just go for it. Don't forget to subscribe to PQube email so you never miss any important news again. That is some shilling right there.
Yeah.
Are you secretly one of us?
Yes. I got a couple written down here.
Alright.
Let's just see.
So what, people have contacted you and they've got like
questions? Yeah. So a couple of people, I announced the stream about a week ago, and a couple of people have sent me some questions in advance. Cool. So I think a good one here that we haven't really talked about, that might be good just to sort of clarify a little bit on. So the process behind DLC and updates and patches, because that's a question. As someone who checks Twitter and Facebook every day, and social media is my job, all the time it's always, there's a bug in this game, when's this getting patched, when's this DLC
my god,
coming out?
that's one for you.
Yeah.
God.
So that is also a production thing. So blame Dan. It's all his fault.
So
it's basically all Dan's fault.
I joined this company from like a QA background, so I will be honest with you, you will never play a game that is 100% bug free. It's bullshit. Like there will always be something wrong, right? Anyway, so if there's like a bug and like you find it in a game, right, and you're like, oh my god, they didn't notice, they didn't, I can guarantee you 99.9% of the time that they know about that issue, and they usually don't fix it due to the fact they want to hit street date. Like, so then they will do like a day one patch, or they will like maybe do it on like patch 2 or patch 3 or whatever, right? If it's not like game breaking. So there has been quite a few times where we have to do day 1 patches due to the fact like there's like it can be stuff, it can be anything really. Right?
Hang on, let me clarify one thing. So when you get approved by Sony, Microsoft, Valve, Nintendo, your game is functioning. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have bugs. It just means that it runs.
It's past their standards, kind of.
Yes.
Yeah. It's their like terminologies that they. So
works.
say like if we take this
console,
controller, and you can see it has X, A, B, and Y, you know, which are the Switch controllers, and say like B is swapped with C, and that's a button prompt in the game. They will fail you like instantly. That's the best way I can describe it. Does that make sense? And it's the same across like all platforms, right? So they have their own like standards that you have to, or their own terminologies that you have to meet. So even like Anlu said, if it passes on any platform, it does not mean that the game does not have bugs. It like the game probably still has a load of bugs, right?
But they're not game breaking.
Yes.
So once you're there. Your game will go to production, physical or digital, and then anything that we notice afterwards, like typos, we will add as a patch.
Yeah, we've actually had people.
Hello.
Had people
The
like
Overlord
contact
enters.
us from like social media and stuff. Get in contact with us.
We are
say they found
squoosed.
Look, he's sitting on the beanbag.
He's still on a beanbag anyway.
Oh no, that's alright.
So we'll have even like you guys like message us like through Twitter and things like that. I think you've sent them over to us a few times. Which like
you'd find a bug in it that maybe I hadn't noticed, or maybe the developers hadn't noticed, and we actually do speak to the developers. Say like, look, hey, this has been found. Can we get a patch for it? And majority of the time we will patch it.
But
So,
but the one thing that's really important is you give us a thing. On PC, you can push a patch almost as soon as it's ready, and it'll be live.
Yeah.
On the consoles,
it's a little bit different.
you have to wait up to 2 weeks for anything to be fixed. So a developer might want to wait a month after release to patch anything, because otherwise you're just constantly pushing for tiny patches that take 2 weeks each to be approved, and you can't put 2 patches at the same time. So you have to wait until mini patch 1 is ready until you can push for that other typo to be fixed. So that sort of how slow it is makes it that we have to wait for stuff to be fixed, especially if the team isn't very big, or in some cases for older Japanese games that we've done, the development team has actually disbanded, and then you're like, okay then
well, that's there.
we can't fix that.
Yeah.
Cool, move on then. Sorry for the typos. Right, we have a lot of questions now.
Yeah.
If I want in on the publishing process, niche Japanese games, is there anything I can take in post-secondary to give me an advantage? I'm a computer science student who does mostly QA, but also dabbling in marketing.
How do you get into niche Japanese
game
That's quite a
publishing?
specific. It's quite a specific thing.
I guess how did we
I
get
don't.
into
Publishing
it?
is such a publishing is such a broad like discipline, right? There's such a huge amount. I mean, the same way as like when you make a game, you can be a programmer, or you can work in QA, or you can be into concept art or 3D modeling. The publishing process has got like a whole bunch of different disciplines. So you've got the kind of the Dan side, which is like super organizational. Obviously comes from a QA background, but it's effectively like bringing together loads of different strands, like the localization of something, and then getting that sent to the developer for that to come back with the new text in it, whether it's French or German or English or whatever. And then you have Caleb's job, which is community management, so kind of looking after you guys and your questions and kind of making you feel kind of like closer to us, I guess.
I did spend now like 2 hours on Discord today talking about Pokemon and N64 games, so I was pretty happy with that.
And then you have Anne Lou's job, which is basically looking after like a whole range of things. So one is like how much money do we want to spend on this game to market it? And then once you kind of know, okay, we're going to spend $100,000 marketing this game. Where do you spend that money? Do you spend it on events, or do you spend it on social media marketing or influencer marketing, or do you run kind of online Seitoku with Kotaku or Siliconeer or whoever? So Anu kind of coordinates all of that, and that's as well as events. Which events do we go to? Do we take this game to LA Anime Expo? So I guess kind of narrowing down what part of that publishing process you want to get involved with. Really.
Yeah, I will say one thing. I have a friend in the US who's doing QA for Sony, I think, and he's looking to get out of QA.
Yeah.
It's hard. So if you're
QA is hard. Yeah.
as in QA is a hard job, but also it's hard to get out of it, because if you've done QA for video games, you have no knowledge of what to do in the other departments because it's so specific.
It's quite a niche,
So if you do get into QA, be mindful of it and make sure that you have other skills afterwards, or that you make the right contacts afterwards is probably my best thing. I wouldn't say any school things would definitely
No,
get
I think it's
you
a combination
into,
of like
just make sure you play a lot of stuff.
Think about broadly what area you want to go into, whether or not it's like the production side, like Dan does, or community management side, or whether it's the marketing or PR side. So kind of think about what kind of broad pockets you want to kind of be in, and then certainly when it comes to like niche publishing in particular, whether that niche is like certain kinds of indie games, or whether it's visual novels or 2D fighting games or whatever, is like have like an amazing knowledge of that one niche.
Yeah.
So play a lot of games, understand those games really well, understand who the companies are that are involved in either the production or the publishing of those games, and just kind of keep a lookout really as to when those guys are hiring. So you kind of need to have
And be
a
proactive.
combination of that knowledge,
Yeah.
but also have worked towards some kind of qualification in marketing or PR.
Yeah, I will say we hired Caleb because he emailed me cold email like, "Are you hiring?" in January, and we weren't. But I remembered his email because it was well spoken and he sounded interesting, and he was interested in the sort of stuff we were doing. So I remembered that he had emailed me when we actually were recruiting for someone for his job.
Did I hear that somebody wanted to get into QA?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I started off in QA, so I can reflect like how
Well, he was asking, can he do anything in school or post-secondary that would
to
give...
get into QA.
Yeah.
Not really. Like, I had a QA test. When you go to the interview, they give you a test, right? This is my best thing you can do for it. And I managed to get my feedback as well. I got the job, and I asked for feedback when I was there, kind of thing, on like why I got the job. The best thing that I did was, I won't tell you the game or anything, but like everyone who went there just played the game, right? They sped through and went, oh, I found this, 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 and this. It was an hour test. I spent that 1 hour in one room, and I just broke that one room over and over. I was like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and I think that's what got me the job. It was more keen eye and getting across,
thorough, yeah.
Very thorough. Don't willy-nilly it. Don't be like, oh, I wonder what this bit of the game is like. Don't do stuff like that. You will play the game if you really want to by the end of it.
Yeah.
At the end, once it's complete. So.
Right, so next question. So the BB tag language patch, that's our system's decision.
Yes.
They, obviously in the US you have, the main language is technically English, but in Europe, a lot of Japanese companies tend to forget that we speak different languages, and a lot of people in Latin countries don't necessarily speak like Spanish, Italian, French aren't always great at English. Because we had the franchises coming in with Persona and everything, I think they were just trying to reach more people with it. It definitely helped, especially in the Latin countries, I would say. Yeah, and then the dub for BBCF, I'm not even addressing because it's been 3 years, so let's move on from the dub question. It was not our decision anyway. There's nothing we can do about it.
Should we go back to the question that is for Geraint?
Yeah,
which I'm quite intrigued by.
Are you trying to extend your business model as a niche publisher?
It wasn't actually that, but we can answer that too.
I'll answer that one first, seeing as
Okay.
I just read it out. Are we trying to extend our business model as a niche publisher? It's quite a specific one. I guess we kind of don't really look at it in that way. I think we kind of sign what we like. I think, and it's fair to say that like
we sign
like,
what we like.
Yeah,
And we like
well,
the
not-
loot.
Gun pixies,
I
go
think it's
gun.
fair to say like we all like 2D fighting games, and we all like anime style games, and we all like content from Japan. It's no surprise that look at the stuff that's like here. Right?
Yeah.
We're kind
Saitama
of.
over here.
Well, I want to say we're like super weeby. We are basically
Weebs
very
with somewhat
weeby.
social skills, I'd like to say.
And
Weeb
so-
who shower.
Yeah, there you go.
We like anime, and we like anime style games, but then at the same time, it's not like the only thing that we play.
Everybody here plays other stuff.
Just to
Yeah.
kind of like bore everybody on this sofa again, like I really like playing Paladins, for example.
I knew this was coming.
We've already spoken about this today.
So like even though like we have very specific tastes and that we do like games from Japan, it's like people here will play something like Firewatch, or I'll be playing Paladins, or
I spent 5 years playing Dota
or like
exclusively,
Seb
yeah.
really likes survival horror games, and
Playing Evil
so
Within at the moment, I think.
so I
Yeah.
think the sort of the way that we, in terms of kind of how we sign things and how we kind of forge a path through as a publisher, basically comes down to like what are we playing in the office, and what kind of stuff do we like, and so
I guess
a
we're
big percentage
extending...
of that is anime. It's anime-based stuff, or we'll look at stuff that's
Or
coming from
Asian, because we've
Asian-
diversified
yeah,
a bit.
you
on
do.
Yeah,
that.
We do
yeah.
look at so that's definitely a big part of what we do. But then we'll go to places like PAX, or we'll go to EGX or MCM Expo or Los Angeles Anime Expo, and we'll kind of see games, and then we'll just be with, oh, you have to check this out. We have to play this. So we'll play stuff in the office together, or somebody will find something at an event and go, oh, I was speaking to these guys, and this game looks really great, and we'll kind of discuss it. So it's not really that specific about wanting to be niche. I think it's just the fact that our tastes are in such a way that we kind of tend to gravitate towards what we consider to be like really interesting games, and in the case of something like Gun Pixies, you only have to kind of look at the broad spectrum of reviews and stuff. There are lots of people out there who definitely don't think this is an interesting game, but for us it's something that we really like and really enjoy. So
It's kind of what I said earlier, which is we'll give a lot of games a chance that other publishers wouldn't give a chance. So
yeah, I guess we like to give
Quirky
everything a
stuff,
fair
yeah.
shot, and we like quirky
Yeah.
stuff. And if something is like a bit left field, it naturally interests everybody here. So Yeah, I hope that answers your question. It's not so much. We don't really kind of set out to be niche. We play what we really like, and we want to support the games that we really like, and whether or not that's something that's like Songbird Symphony, for example, on one side, which we like for different reasons, or something like Fight of Gods, which is like completely out there in another direction. So, yeah.
I will say we're expanding our business, not our business model, right? We're trying to work as a business. We're trying to make money, but we're not looking at it from a what is the next niche thing that we can do. We're just we want to do games that appeal to our audience. Some of those are niche, 2D fighting games, sexy games, visual novels. But we're also like, just what can we do that's interesting and might please, appeal to people in general.
Yeah. I would say like depends what you define as niche, right? A lot of people will look at our games and be like, this is awesome, this is kick-ass, this is great. But I look at like a lot of the EA games and I'm like, does that make sense?
One of the questions in my interview was,
like, it's not
do you play
gonna,
many AAA games? And
like every game that's made, right, it's not going to please everyone, right? Otherwise, okay, maybe World of Warcraft, okay, that was, it's time that pleased majority of the population, right?
There were less gamers back then.
Yeah, that is true actually. So I think it, like, define niche though, right? I mean,
No, well, we can't deny what we do is niche, but I don't think we're trying to be niche. We're trying to be a publisher
we
that
don't look at
does
games as
unique
niche.
stuff, not specifically. There was one question about working visas from overseas. Yes, obviously, I'm foreign. I'm not the only one.
Are you?
Surprise! No, but we have one of the people in the production team is from Taiwan, so he does have a visa to be in the UK, and that's completely fine. So that's not a problem as long as you're able to relocate to work in one of our offices, really, because we would rather have the people in-house. What happened to Uppers? That is not our product. We are only distributing, so you can ask Scott at Marvelous.
He's specifically Scott. Why would you do this?
He's the he's a social media manager, so, and we know him quite well. So bother Scott.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, Scott.
If you're watching, pal. All right, we're rapidly running out of time, but should we wrap up maybe on
the Arc? There was one question that is more for you. So, how did the Arc System and PQube connection start? And obviously, it starts before PQube, so you're the only one who can.
Oh right, well, it's almost just a little bit before me as well. So I kind of came in to work on Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger to do marketing and PR on Calamity Trigger. So my road into publishing was, I used to be a games journalist, and I was a games journalist for 10 years, and then I stopped being a games journalist, and not quite immediately, but started working on Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger because I was massively into 2D fighting games, and obviously new Arc System works really well. I was aware that this company wanted to have help with publishing Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger, and bizarrely, that company was based like about 500 meters away from my house. So I went over there and kind of asked whether or not I could be of any use on that game. And just because I was just like a super big fan anyway. So
how old were you?
So that's how it started. It was effectively, we started working on the European release of Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger, and we've effectively known Arc System Works and worked with them ever since.
Yes, so that was Zen United.
That's right. Yeah.
And obviously that was bought by PQube, so you were poached by.
So yeah, basically PQube effectively kind of absorbed like the marketing team and the production team was Harrison, who's now living in Japan, who's Dan's boss, and we had an artist, and it was just us three basically that PQube basically took from Zen.
Right. So do you want to reformulate your dreaded question about Omega before we wrap up?
Should we do, there seems to be a lot of light on this one, maybe. Maybe we should just nip it in the bud. We'll talk about it.
I've done it before. It doesn't help.
And then we'll know more.
We've nipped many buds about this game.
So
Omega.
Yes. What was the question?
I think it was straight up.
How we felt about
how did we
what
feel
happened,
about
basically.
what happened?
How do you feel about what happened? Do you know what? It's frustrating, right? Because and I guess certainly for Andy, because we worked on it for quite a long time and we were super excited about it. And,
it's actually a good game. I liked it.
Yeah,
I played it. Yeah, I played it.
But I think anybody that's kind of worked in games is you have to be kind of relatively thick-skinned. Like
Yeah.
some things work and some things don't, and some things get published and some things don't. And in this case, it was kind of frustrating for us because we worked a lot and it's something that we really loved, but we understood the circumstances around why it didn't release. But yeah, I guess you kind of have a sort of fairly thick skin in the same way that you can work on something really hard as a publisher or even as a developer when you don't have a publisher attached, and you can work really hard on something and then you really excited about that game launching and then it can just not sell, and that's the kind of the cold hard reality of it. And thankfully it's very, very rare that we're ever in that position where something has performed like amazingly badly. Thankfully it hasn't really happened, but you have games that kind of like don't perform as well as you hope that they would do.
Yeah.
So there's always a mixture of disappointments, I guess, in the publishing process of a game won't work properly, or in the case of Amiga, is something that we can't release, or you're super hyped for something and it comes out and it doesn't sell very well, and after a while, like there's almost no game that ever runs smoothly, right? There's always like something that has to happen on.
Even if you guys don't hear about it, usually something gets
there's
gone
like
wrong.
you kind of like you get up in the morning and you come into work and you've like somebody's made a mistake or so there's been an oversight or
the developer
or
changed their mind
or
about
something's
something,
not really
and
working
the
properly.
pricing was set up wrong, and you
Yeah.
realise it's too late to change, which happened recently.
So there's
it's
a variety of things. So I guess as a publisher, you work on so many games that you kind of learn to
move on.
just kind of learn to move on and learn to kind of understand that that's just the industry, right? Nothing ever kind of runs super smoothly all the time. So
There
you
will
just
be
kind
upsets.
and so it's you just kind of learn to live with it, I
Yeah.
guess.
For the Steam question, that's not really in our hands. As I was saying at the beginning of the stream, we're not developers, we don't own the games. A Steam port would probably be around 100k, right? Just to make that happen you gotta pay the team to make that thing happen because they're working on something else probably now because they're always 2 steps ahead. So that's...
Yeah, you'd need to regather that team together and get them to do a port, and but obviously it's like technically it's not our product. So
on thoughts on the sequel releasing.
this is for Omega.
Yeah, the Omega Life.
I've seen
I was sad not to work on it, but it didn't happen, and I thought what they did with the PS4 version was hilarious, to be honest. So
I think it's good that it's
happened.
It's
Something
good that
happened,
it
right?
exists, right? And Omega is finding a way to come to market. Of course, we would love to. Basically, if it's that kind of content, we would always love to work on those kinds of games. But I'm kind of happy that it's kind of out there, right? And it's finding a way there, because like I get to play it and you guys get to play it, and that's basically.
And the franchise isn't dead, and the work isn't for nothing, because ultimately people will have heard of it one way or another, and some of that was our work. So
Yeah.
My mum had heard of it, and she
Because
she doesn't play video games.
She's a big fan.
It was on BBC News. That's why
Yes,
she was like, "Oh, your company was
remember.
on-" Yeah, so we don't talk too much about it.
any interesting stories to share with Kotodama?
Kotodama's a whole interesting
Ooh.
kettle of fish that we didn't even get time to get into.
Oh, we
here.
should get into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, we did this like experiment. I guess we wanted to make our own game. We've launched it. It was successful for us. But we've not really kind of thought about kind of next steps. Really, our main thing for this year was can we make our own game, and what can we learn from making our own game, and can we make our own game and for it to be fine, which we've kind of done. And so we would like to make another game. When we would do that, I don't know. Would you make another Kotodama? Technically, it's feasible, as in we kind of know what happens in the story beyond Kotodama. Like we kind of have an understanding of kind of what we would do with it in future. But there's no like firm plans to do it right now. But we would like to make another IP, whether or not we continue Kotodama or whether or not we go, let's make something completely different. I don't know. We're still kind of on the fence, but please look forward to something else at some point.
Yeah.
But it probably won't be like realistically. It kind of took quite a lot out of us. Certainly took a lot out of Amaria, who's like skilled in the background. So we kind of need to like assess it all and like see what we've learned from the process of making a game for the first time, because it was genuinely the first time that we'd ever tried to do anything like that. And we understood what was kind of good about the game. We understood what was bad about the game. So we need to consolidate that and go where do we go
How do we
from
make
here?
something
what
even
do
better
we,
next
yeah,
time?
what do we want to do something else again? So
Interesting stories is so you imagine our office is relatively relaxed, the stuff we do, the things behind us, the people that we are, but we have a head office that's a lot more serious with the finance, the CEO, the operations, and they don't see what we do a lot, right? For them it's processing products to market. So you can see some of the scenes of Kotodama, the stripping bits, where Garant was aggressively shouting at the screen, telling the girls to get naked in the head office. And he was like, that's my job. I gotta strip the girl. Like, this is happening. I need to know. Because he couldn't find the true ending, so he had to keep on replaying it while in the head office. And everybody was like, what? Like,
What's
just,
going on?
what?
And that's what we have every day.
Yeah, and this is life. In the same way that we were consulted on the the look of the girls, the art style of how they were drawn, but also the underwear style. Like, what kind of lingerie do you think suits the girls best? And we saw some variations before the final product. So the office just takes votes in our private Discord server.
there was a stage that I was at my kitchen scrolling through underwear.
Oh wow.
On my laptop, and my wife is like, I'm not even gonna.
What have I?
I'm not
what
even.
have I
I'm
done?
not even gonna ask you what. Not even gonna ask you what you're doing. But
Yep, this is
yeah.
life. And also we had to select the voices, and so we were playing them out loud in the office, like which voice would suit which character, and that also included moans out loud.
Yeah, this was great because we do actually have an entire asset folder
We
of
do
just
have-
moans.
of just.
I actually did. I
sexy-
did a little
sexy
thing
moaning.
a while ago, right after I joined for Kotodama, where I did a sort of match the moan game, where I played a moan, and I had two characters, and you had to guess which
Match
character
the
emitted
moan.
that moan.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
So
was
we have our
gold mine.
moments again.
Yes, that's true.
So hopefully we will have more moments, but I think we'll
Moments.
certainly won't begin to do something on a new kind of PQube made game until probably, I don't know, probably next year. I think by the time we get through the rest of our titles this year.
But we're not giving up on the sexy, no matter what, whether it's our own IP or other IPs.
We're
We hope to
dedicated,
keep on
yes.
bringing those to our core fans.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
Cool.
I think.
I don't know if there's any more questions. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. And if you guys were interested in what we did, we were debating doing one maybe about specifically the challenges and the things that have happened in our more lewd publishing titles. So we can do that maybe in a month or so.
Yeah,
If you guys want, or if you have more questions about stuff specifically, not just Omega. We've done a lot of sexy stuff. So yeah, let us know. We're always on Discord.
Yep, and also just because we've got a ton of people watching today, more than we normally get, so thank you all for tuning in.
Yes, thank you very
I would like to mention that we stream 3 times a week at the same time as you tuned in today. And we play all sorts of games, upcoming games that we do. You'll be able to see stuff that you won't be able to see anywhere else, and we also play other publishers' games just for fun as well. And it's a lot of fun. So if you enjoyed this one, it would be great if you came back for those as well.
We will show our office as well at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we will. Yeah, we tried. We don't have a USB cable long enough.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah.
So I'll invest in one.
But we will. Maybe we'll have a little tour, and I guess we kind of reintroduce the team as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
Just so
it'd
you
be
kind of get
nice
to
to
know
get
who.
there's some new faces.
Because obviously you see me a little bit. Obviously you see Keller, but obviously Dan a lot as well. But it just depends on like who's like not like super busy at that.
Yeah.
we got
Yeah.
Jack, but he's like always busy. He's new. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the production team is shy.
Hey, oh no.
There was
Come on,
one
is it?
question from Rudy Rue about yes, we've introduced people to porting companies before. That's part of the things that we do for various partners. That doesn't change anything about the cost problem, which is still an investment that has to be taken care of by either the publisher or the developer or both, and that's a financial agreement, that's a contract that has to be negotiated. So there are things we just can't talk about that are between us and the partner, but I would not count on the Steam Omega Labyrinth thread thing.
Caleb, how about highlighting the whole stream? Highlights on stream stay forever. I think it'll be interesting for a while. To be honest, I'll probably throw this one up on YouTube. That'd be pretty easy to do. So I'll probably do that tomorrow, actually. And maybe also our Cat Quest 2 stream from earlier this week, because there's plenty of new footage in there,
Yeah.
which I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in. So,
Highlights are forever,
Cool.
like diamonds.
like diamonds, yeah.
I guess
Alright.
we'll see you on Friday.
Yes.
What are we doing Friday?
What are we doing Friday?
It's a good question. What do you want us to do Friday?
Well, yeah, let us know. Join
Yeah.
Discord if let us know what you want
Oh
to
yeah,
happen
you
on
can
Friday.
you can see our Discord down there. We chat in there every day. You can give us suggestions. You can just talk about games. I also post announcements and stuff there, and yeah, it's a fun time. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this and you're not in the Discord, please
Join
come
us.
along. Yes, but yeah,
We post memes and loot.
Gunbump Pixies, show me the gameplay. We actually did that already, but we could do it again.
We could play some more.
Yeah, we could do that again.
Some more Kenga Pixies.
Yeah. All right.
All right, thank you,
yeah,
guys.
take care,
Thanks for
guys.
joining us, guys.
Bye.
See you later.